When Helios slips below the western rim, the world of men surrenders its warmth to shadow. A hush falls over river and sand, punctuated only by the soft rustle of palms in the evening breeze. Daylight's guardian temples, granaries, bustling markets grow still, their stones bathed in the cool wash of twilight. It is in this sacred hour that Ra, sovereign of the sky and sun, boards his celestial vessel. The Solar Barque awaits him on the eastern bank, moored not to timber posts, but to currents of starlight and intention. Its hull is carved from living ebony, the wood imbued with resinous oils extracted from the incense trees of Punt, so that it gleams like liquid night itself. Along its flanks, gilded hieroglyphs proclaim Ra's many names: Khepri of dawn, Re of noon, Autumn of duskage title, inked in gold leaf that catches the last gleam of day. 7 mast-like pillars arise from the deck, wound in spirals of copper and lapis. These support sails, woven from fine linen, dyed with powdered malachite and indigo, thin as moth wings, but strong as the Nile's current. When unfurled, they billow with unseen cosmic winds, catching the breath of the universe itself. At the prow sits a radiant figurehead, the falcon-headed visage of Ra Harakti, its eyes set with carnelian that glows with an inner fire, a beacon in the coming dark. Priests in white linen robes stand at the gangplank, their feet bare on sandstone keys. They carry flambeaux of torches dipped in scented resin myrrh, frankincense, kifiso that every step Ra takes is accompanied by curling plumes of perfumed smoke. Their voices rise in low unison, chanting the hymn of dusk, calling upon the 4 sons of Horus to guard the barque's prow, invoking the power of Thoth to record each moment, beseeching Ma'at to hold chaos at bay. As the final verse echoes into silence, Ra steps aboard. His presence is like dawn's first pulse warmth, returning to cooled stone, color blooming in the absence of light. He is clothed in the crimson garment of setting sun, his golden disk tilted upon his brow. In one hand he bears the Waz scepter, symbol of dominion. In the other, the Ankh, the promise of life. Behind him, the barque's crew divine helmsman of shining bronze-grip long oars carved from sacred tamarisk, each stroke guided by ancient spells that shape water into pathways of gold. The barque glides away from the shore, slipping into the black water of night as easily as a shadow slipping beneath a door. Lanterns of beaten silver are lit along its raileach, a tiny sun warding off creatures of darkness. The river's surface glimmers, reflecting the twin lights of barque and orb above, a liquid mirror in which worlds of sky and water interweave. Below, the riverbanks vanish, replaced by the yawning threshold of Duatha Underworld. Here, reeds sway in silent menace, not with the breeze of earth, but with currents of unspoken fears. At its mouth stand the jaws of Chenenet, 2 great crocodile maws carved from basalt, their teeth of alabaster poised to snap at anything unworthy. Yet the barque carries Ra unharmed. On its prow, bound in silver chains, rests the mighty Serpent Mayhen, coiled in vigilant guard, its scales glinting with runic enchantments. With every stroke of oar and chant of priest, the Solar Barque slides deeper into night's embrace. Stars wheel overhead Nut's tapestry, unfurled in constellations guide the way. So this blazing in northern sky to mark the festival of inundation, Orion's belt pointing to the hidden crossroads of judgment ahead. The journey has begun, a nightly voyage through realms unseen where every shadow holds a trial, every ripple of water a whisper of destiny. And as Ra's golden disk sinks beneath the horizon, the barque carries not only light, but the promise of dawn. For through the perils of the underworld, through fire and serpent and judgment's scales, the sun must travel. Only then can the world awaken once more fresh, reborn, and held in the steadfast glow of Ra's eternal reign. The solar barque slides beneath the basalt jaws of Chenenet, and the world above vanishes in an instant. No stars remain, no moon's pale echo, only the impenetrable black of the underworld's threshold. The air grows thick with the scent of damp stone and ancient salts, as if the river itself exhales its centuries of secrets. Before the barque lies the gate of snapping jaws, two cavernous maws carved in living rock, their teeth glistening like bleached ivory, clamped shut at the approach of any who travel unbidden. But Ra's vessel bears the Shen ring upon its prow-in unbroken circle of protection forged by Thoth's incantations, which whispers to the jaws in a language older than time. At its touch, the jaws part with a sonorous click, revealing a cavernous throat of writhing shadows. Inside, the walls pulse with phosphorescent fungi tendrils of pale green light that trace the reliefs of uncanny faces. Demonic sentinels crouch in niches, jackal-headed houndmen whose crimson eyes burn with hunger, frog-throated devourers whose webbed hands claw at the darkness. Each guardian issues a silent challenge its gaze, demanding token offerings before it allows passage. From the barque's hold, priests present 7 sacred jars, each filled with spiced wine and distilled lotus oil. They lift them in reverent sequence, first to the jackal, then to the frog, then to the long-snouted jackal, fish. At each niche, the jars are set upon stone ledges, their contents anointing the stony lips of each guardian, a hiss of acceptances, oft as steam rumbles through the cave. Deeper still, the passage narrows. The barque's helmsmen guide its black hull through winding channels of water, so still they mirror the cavern's roof. Here, legends say, shadows take shape, fragments of souls lost in past ages, flickering phantoms that drift at the water's edge. Should one meet their gaze, they might be drawn into eternal wandering. But Ra's presence is absolute. His Wa's scepter glows with steady light, casting off the drifting specters. Around him, the priests intone the litany of barque-guarding spells, their voices weaving a web of vibrational wards that bind phantoms to silence. Even the faintest whisper of their chant ripples through the water, holding back the siren calls of oblivion. At last, the barque emerges into a cathedral-like chamber, the antechamber of shadows. Here stand 2 massive statues of men with lion heads, their eyes of lapis lazuli tracking every movement. Between them lies the threshold of night, a low-arched portal carved with entwined serpents representing the dual nature of Duat creation and destruction, life and death, beginning and end. A final offering is made, the Eye of Ra, fashioned from polished carnelian, set into a pedestal of obsidian. Placed at the portal's center, it burns with a steady glow, opening the threshold with a pulse of crimson light. The serpent carvings twist apart, and the barque drifts onward, leaving behind the murmur of the guardians and the echo of sacrificial wine. Beyond this gate, Duat stretches into the heart of darkness, a realm where time folds, and the boundaries between the living and the dead blur into whispers of eternity. Ra's journey has begun in earnest, and each stroke of the oars carries the promise of light reborn, or the threat of unending night. Ra's solar barque glides into a widening basin, its ebony hull reflecting the flicker of molten light. Before him stretches the lake of fire, a vast expanse of liquid flame that roils and surges like a living beast. Smoke coils in serpentine ribbons above the searing waves, painting the cavern's vaulted ceiling with dancing embers. The air here scorches the lungs. Even the priests retreat beneath protective veils, their linen robes damp with sweat and fear. Legends tell that Set himself guards this dread lake, for it was he who first harnessed its fury when he sought to ambush Ra in ages past. At the far shore stand twin obelisks crowned by the crocodile head of Sobek sentinels, carved from black basalt, their eyes inlaid with fiery carnelian that glints with malevolent anticipation. Between them, enormous chains of wrought bronze span the water's surface, like the teeth of a colossal maw ready to clamp shut upon any who cross unbidden. To approach this infernal sea, Ra raises his ankh high, invoking the name of Amun-Ra, the Hidden One. From the bark's hold, priests pass him a bowl of pure lotus oil, distilled in the sacred cisterns of Memphis. With solemn hands, he pours the oil into the waters, and for a moment the lake stutters, its flames dim, ripple with iridescent calm, as if coaxed into a brief slumber. Then Set's laughter rumbles through the cavern, low and mocking, and fire reignites with hunger. From the prow, Ra extends the Waz scepter toward the waves. Runes along its shaft begin to burn with white-hot intensity, casting a protective halo around the vessel. Shields of living flame curve outward in transparent arcs, deflecting the lake's more aggressive surges. Yet the bark cannot traverse the waters by strength alone. It must earn safe passage through an ancient rite of purification. At Ra's command, the priests recite the spell of the flaming serpents, calling upon their master Mayan. From the serpent's silver coil at the prow, a cluster of subsidiary serpents 50 in a lung coils into the air, shimmering with lapis scales. They dive into the fiery sea, their bodies tracing patterns of protection that swirl like constellations. As each serpent plunges, the lake bows its flames back, carving a narrow passage of tempered fire no hotter than a midday desert wind. Ra dips the eye of Harusa hieroglyph carved in bronze into the waters. As it emerges, dripping with embers, the eyes restore magic glows in azure radiance. The priests catch the runes with polished mirrors and channel their light through crystalline prisms, scattering fragments of blue across the hull. In that prismatic weave, the lake's flames are momentarily transmuted, flickering like polished gemstones rather than roaring inferno. But Set will not be appeased so easily. From the heart of the lake, coils of living flame burst upward, serpents of pure fire, fanged with molten steel, their eyes twin suns that glare with ancient hatred. They lash against the bark's hull, scorching its ebony sides and hissing like the breath of creation itself. Ra leans forward, his cloak billowing in the infernal draft. His voice rings out, the syllables of power resonating deep within the cavern. O flames of creation, O fire of renewal, temper and purify. Let destruction be reversed, let life be reborn. At his words, the fiery serpents falter. Their coils unravel and collapse into harmless sparks that drift away like dying stars. The great waves settle, forming gentle undulations that reflect the bark's torchlight in amber tessellations. In that fleeting calm, Ra's crew rose with renewed vigor, guiding the vessel across the transformed lake. As the bark reaches the far embankment, the priests offer a final libation, a mixture of honey, beer, and aromatic gums, poured onto obsidian altars set along the shore. Each altar bears a relief of Apophis, the great serpent of chaos entwined with the falcon of Ra in eternal struggle. The libation hisses as it meets the stone, releasing a vapor that drifts across the lake like a benediction. It is a tribute of submission and gratitude, acknowledging both the peril overcome and the power that sustains life through death's crucible. From the embankment, The cavern opens into a narrow channel. Here, the water's color shifts from molten red to deep violet, an omen of the trials ahead. The air cools slightly, carrying the tang of brimstone and ambrosia. Behind, the lake of fire roars back to its full fury, its surface once again pulsing with hunger and rage. Ra steps from the barque, his sandals touching the scorched ground. He stands tall, silhouetted against the tumultuous sea of flame, cloak of flame with inner light. In his presence, the fires bow like a phantom audience, offering respect to their sovereign luminary. Then, with the ankh raised one final time, Ra turns toward the narrow channel that leads deeper into Duat, accompanied by the measured beat of drums and the low chant of priests. Beyond the lake of fire, the tunnel narrows until the Solar Barque floats beneath a low stone archway where no light penetrates. Here begins the Bridge of Judgment, a slender causeway suspended over an abyss so deep that neither oar nor torch can touch its depths. The very stones of the bridge hum with the weight of countless destinies, each footstep echoing the heartbeat of worlds. Ra stands at the prow, the glow of his disk casting long shadows across the bridge's surface. To either side, the chasm yawns like the gaping maw of chaos, blacker than obsidian, silent as the grave. Ropes of spectral mist coil upward from its depths, woven from the sighs of souls awaiting reckoning. Beneath the barque's hull, the water's surface has given way to an intangible void. Here, one's balance upon the bridge becomes not merely physical, but moral and cosmic. At the bridge's midpoint, a vast dais emerges, an island of black basalt no larger than a funeral bier. Upon it stand two great figures, Anubis, jackal-headed guardian of the scales, and Ma'at, the feathered goddess of truth. Behind them floats a set of golden scales, its pans empty but trembling as if alive. The chasm wind carries echoes of whispered confessions, drifting like lost parchments across the dais. Anubis steps forward, his basalt feet silent upon the stone. In his right hand he wields a polished metal pan, his left grips a slender beam that holds the feather of Ma'at light as a whisper, white as starlight. He inclines his head to Ra, acknowledging the light bringer's passage, but makes no move to permit crossing. Ma'at's wings scarved of silver and inlaid lapis fans slowly, stirring currents of unseen power that ripple through the mist. Ra disembarks, sandals imprinting glowing crescent marks across the bridge. Torches on the barque's rail flare and dim in sync with his steps, as though offering their life force to light his way. Clad in robes spun from the rays of sunset and dawn, he carries the Wa's scepter in one hand and the ankh in the other, symbols of dominion and life held in eternal suspense. Anubis raises his pan. A single ember drifts from Ra's disk and settles upon it. The god of embalming bows his head and tilts the pan. The ember wavers, rises, falls, then remains perfectly centered. A hush descends, filled only by the sound of scales balancing themselves. Ma'at steps forward, her feather hovering over the ember. With a gentle nod, she allows the feather to dip, brushing the ember with a breath that neither quells flame nor fans fire, but simply acknowledges its worth. The scales swing a slow, deliberate motion and come to rest level. A soft chime sounds like temple bells at dusk. Anubis moves aside, gesturing toward the far side of the bridge. Ma'at's feather dissolves into motes of luminous dust that drift upward, vanishing into the void. But the trial is not yet complete. Dark shapes shift at the edges of the bridge, personifications of sin and virtue. The Sekhmet lioness of wrath on one side, the Sobek crocodile of fear on the other. Each steps forward to challenge Ra's passage. The lioness bares her fangs, flaming breath curls from her maw. The crocodile's jaws clamp shut with a thunderous echo. Both demand offerings, rage for restraint, fear for courage. From the bark's hold, priests present 2 urns. One contains a mixture of myrrh and cedar sobriety over wrath. The other holds chilled Nile water and crushed lapis steadiness over terror. Ra offers the myrrh to Sekhmet. The fumes calm the lioness's rage until her roar softens to a purr. He sprinkles the lapis water before Sobek, whose jaws unclench and tail thumps in placation, sending ripples through the mist. With the guardians assuaged, the bridge's stones glow with pale blue light, revealing hieroglyphs carved along its edges. He who carries truth's light shall walk unshaken. He who bears life's key shall step beyond fear and fury. Ra treads upon those sacred words, each syllable flaring beneath his sandals, guiding him across the span. At the bridge's far arch, the chasm narrows to a thin seam of darkness. Beyond, the waters of Duat return, shimmering with silver phosphorescence. The bark, guided by divine helmsmen, awaits in that gentle basin. Ra steps aboard once more as the bridge's glow dims, its stones sinking back into shadow. Behind him, the trial of scales and the test of beasts stand silent, guardians resumed. Ahead, deeper challenges await visions of the past, rituals of order, and the ultimate clash with chaos itself. But tonight, Ra has traversed the bridge of judgment, his flame balanced, his courage proven, his passage secured by truth. The Solar Barque moves onward, carrying its lord deeper into the mysteries of the underworld. The bark drifts away from the bridge of judgment and slips into a narrowing channel whose walls pulse with an otherworldly glow. Faint ripples across the water's surface carry whispers from eons past memories trapped in Duat's depths, yearning to be heard. Ahead, the passage widens into a vast cavern, its vaulted ceiling lost in shadow. This is the Cavern of Yearning, where Ra confronts the echoes of his own ancient struggles and the weight of every flame he has ever kindled. Lanterns suspended from chains of iron drift overhead, their flickering light casting wavering patterns on the cavern's walls. Carvings of serpents, falcons, and human figures leer from the stone, their eyes inlaid with bits of polished obsidian that seem to follow the bark's passage. The air is thick with the scent of lotus and decaying papyrusa perfume, both sweet and mournful, like memories steeped in sorrow. As Ra's disk bathes the cavern in its soft radiance, images begin to emerge along the waterline, reflected in the shimmering current. First, there is the vision of Khepri, the scarab god of dawn, endlessly rolling his glowing orb across the horizon in ages before time. The memory is one of creation's first whispers, raw, exuberant light unfurling across sky and sea, scattering primordial waters to carve the land. Khepri's laughter rings like distant bells, a joyous sound that resonates through the cavern. The vision fades, replaced by the memory of Ra's battle with Apophis, the great serpent of chaos. Here, on this very water, Ra's bark had once been besieged by hissing coils of shadow. Phantom jaws snapped at the hull. Ghostly fangs dripped venom that boiled the river's surface. Ra, undaunted, had summoned his inner flamed heart of the Sunto, sear the serpent's form, sending Apophis writhing back into the abyss. In the echo of that triumph, Ra feels both the thrill of victory and the sorrow of necessary destruction. Behind these scenes, another specter drifts, the image of Atum, the self-created sun, god who emerges from the primeval ocean at dusk. Atum's metamorphosis when he folds his arms in silent prayer, and becomes the setting Sunnis, a vision of solemn resignation. It speaks of endings made sacred, of the quiet dignity in letting go, and of the promise that every conclusion births a new beginning. As these memories cascade, the bark slows. Priests clutch their sacred scrolls, their voices hushed as they recite the spell of remembrance, a litany that calls upon Thoth, the divine scribe, to record each echo without despair. The bark's helmsmen dip their oars into the water, each stroke accompanied by the soft chant of Hotep, peace be with the heart, so that Ra may traverse the currents of memory without being consumed by them. In the heart of the cavern lies a circular pool, its water smooth as polished glass. Here, Ra disembarks once more, lowering his disk to gaze upon his own reflection. But the mirror shows not one god, but many: Ra, Horakti, and Atum, Khepri, and Re, each manifestation shimmering in concentric circles. Each face speaks a truth, that the sun's journey is not a single path, but a tapestry woven of many lives and roles. A hush falls so deep it seems to swallow the faint drip of water from stalactites overhead. Then Thoth's voice, soft as whispered wind, rises from the shadows. O Ra, light of the world, behold your entwined selves. Embrace their song, and let the harmony of your being guide the bark. At his words, Ra extends the ankh toward the pool. Light pulses beneath the surface. The reflections ripple, merging into one luminescent orb. From within this orb emerges a figure clad in robes of dawn and dusk, unified Rahi's many aspects reconciled in perfect symmetry. The pooled waters glow with renewed brilliance, casting arcs of prismatic light across the cavern's walls. Before the unified reflection fades, Mayhen, the protective serpent, coils around Ra's shoulders and lowers his head in reverence. The great serpent's scales shed motes of golden dust that drift into the air, and where they settle, the cavern's damp stone blooms with lotus flowers of pale blue. Ra raises his hands and speaks the declaration of unity. I am the light that breathes at birth and at death, the flame that dances in every heart and star, the path that weaves through chaos and order alike. Let the echoes of past triumphs and trials be as one in me, that I may journey forth in wholeness and guide the world to dawn. At that proclamation, the pool's surface erupts in a column of sparkling water that ascends to the vaulted roof before cascading back in shimmering rain. The rain pools form pathways through the channel, guiding the bark around hidden shoals of remorse and regret. Lanterns. The channel widens once more, and before the Solar Barque stretches a vast colonnade hewn from gleaming alabaster. As Ra's disk rises to half its height, its light ignites the columns in soft illumination, each monolith carved with the intertwined wings of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and cosmic balance. This is the Hall of Ma'at, seat of the world's order, where every ripple of Duat's waters converges into harmony. On either side of the wide basin stand 12 pairs of columns 24, in a leech pair joined by a lintel bearing the image of Ma'at, single ostrich feather. Between these colossal pillars, niches house statues of the 42 judges, their forms carved of onyx and gold, human judges with the heads of ibis and jackal, of lion and falcon, each bearing scrolls of judgment and scales of righteousness. Their silent gazes, eyes inlaid with turquoise, follow every movement of the barque's approach. With the keel touching tranquil waters, Ra disembarks upon a floating dais of polished black granite. The dais is tethered by silver chains to 2 massive mooring posts, each crowned with the emblem of the sun's cycle circle, within circle, radiating outward like 1,000 ripples. A hush falls, deeper than any before, pregnant with expectancy. From the shadows beyond the column steps Ma'at herself, radiant in alabaster and gold. Her feathered wings arch gracefully behind her, each feather inscribed in hieroglyphs detailing the laws that bind the cosmos: justice, balance, order, reciprocity. In her right hand she holds the feather, pure and white. In her left, the scepter of equilibrium, a staff entwined with twin serpents representing the dual forces creation and destruction kept eternally in check. She regards Ra with serene authority. At her feet, the judges stir. Some lift their scrolls, others weigh miniature hearts against tiny feathers of their own. Yet none speak, their judgment awaits the ritual about to unfold. High priests and priestesses, arrayed in robes of starlight blue and dawn's pink, line the dais in silent rows. Each carries an incense burner of polished bronze, from which curls of perfumed smoke rise in spiral pluma sandalwood, juniper, sacred cedarol chosen for their symbolic balance of masculine and feminine, earth and sky. Ra steps forward and places his scepter into a stand carved like the horizon flat above, curved below, symbolizing his dominion over both realms. He then offers the Ankh at Ma'at's feet, depositing it upon an ivory altar engraved with the scales of cosmic harmony. As he does so, his disk dims to a soft glow, deferring to the goddess's radiance. Ma'at inclines her head, and the judges lean forward. A single judge steps out, Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of the gods. In one hand he cradles a silver stylus. In the other, a papyrus scroll inscribed with the negative confession, the 42 declarations of innocence each soul must speak. I have not stolen. I have not slain. I have not spoken ill of the humble. Each line resonates through the hall like a chime. Thoth opens the scroll and begins to chant in a voice both gentle and firm. The judges repeat each line in turn, voices rising in a solemn chorus that echoes down the colonnade and beyond the unseen gates of Duat. Ra listens, privy to each vow of purity, each renunciation of chaos. As the affirmations proceed, wisps of light detach from Ma'at's feather, drifting to settle upon each judge's scale, tipping them ever so slightly toward equilibrium. When the final confession is spoken, Thoth rolls the scroll closed. He steps forward and dips his stylus into a bowl of lotus blue ink. With precise strokes, he inscribes Ra's name at the scroll's end, sealing the ritual with the declaration, "He who brings the light renews the order." Ma'at raises her feather. It quivers, shedding a cascade of luminescent motes that swirl through the hall like gentle snow. The judges close their scrolls and return to their niches, statues once more, their duty fulfilled. The incense smoke drifts upward, carrying the words of balance into the unseen crevices of Duat. With a gesture, Ma'at signals the helmsman. The chains at the dais unwind, and the barque drifts gently forward. As Ra steps aboard, his disk brightens anew, absorbing the harmony of the ritual. The columns of alabaster glow in response, their hieroglyphs shimmering with the light of a world in balance. Behind, the hall of Ma'at stands silent and perfect, a testament to the order that holds chaos at bay. Ahead lies the Serpent's court, where the final test awaits. But in this moment, Ra carries within him the feather's blessing and the judge's verdict. That truth, when upheld, guides every journey through darkness back into the dawn. Beyond the alabaster pillars of Ma'at's hall, the Solar Barque glides into a vast subterranean basin known as the Serpent's Court. Here, the currents of Duat's waters swirl in eddies of phosphorescent mist. The cavern's walls are slick with ancient moisture, and the air vibrates with low throbbing humsas, if the stones themselves remember Apophis's roar. At the center of the court lies a circular platform of black basalt, ringed by 7 hooded serpents wrought in polished bronze. Each serpent bears a different aspect of chaos hunger: envy, wrath, despair, decay, oblivion, and madness. Their jaws gape wide, fangs tipped with molten silver. Between their coils, bas-relief carvings depict Apophis, the great serpent of night, writhing across the cosmic ocean in eternal enmity with Ra. As the bark enters, the hooded serpents stir, their eyes garnets set like glowing embers flare to life. A tremor ripples through the court's waters, carrying a hiss of challenge. From the shadows beneath the platform, a vast shape emerges. Apophis himself, coiled in mammoth girth, scales glinting with malachite and onyx. His head rises, fanged maw yawning to swallow the sun's light whole. Ra stands at the prow, disk blazing like the orb of noon. The priests form a circle around him, clattering bronze sistrums in a percussive chant, the spell of bound serpents, an ancient hymn taught by Thoth to hold chaos at bay. Their voices rising in counterpoint, the friction of metal and ritual sound fades Apophis's hiss to a distant rumble. From Ra's chest emerges the Eye of Ra, flame in gemstone form, hovering between God and serpent. It pulses with every heartbeat, casting prismatic light across the court. In response, Apophis lunges, jaws snapping at the radiant orb, yet the eye drifts back, eluding each strike, guided by Ra's will and the priest's harmonized chant. The 7 bronze serpents uncoil and slither across the platform toward Apophis, their forms animated by enchantment. They hiss in unison, echoing the priest's mantra, Ma'at, Ma'at, uphold the balance. In each incantation, the serpent's court trembles, coils tighten, fangs retract. Apophis thrashes, sending waves washing over the bark's deck, but the chanted spell holds firm. Ra lifts his was scepter, its length inscribed with the names of 7 just gods. He points its tip at Apophis's eye, and a beam of searing light arcs through the cavern. The great serpent recoils, its scales fracturing into a cascade of jeweled shards that clatter across the basalt floor. Each chip dissolves into motes of amber dust, drifting upward to mingle with the incense-scented air. Summoning the full force of his divine essence, Ra intones the hymn of annihilation, a final verse that can strike chaos from existence if sung true. The priests join, voices unified in a crescendo that shakes the cavern walls. Light surges from the eye, a ribbon of pure fire that wraps around Apophis's coils. For a moment, all is white, brilliant southern silence. When darkness returns, only the flattened coils of the serpent's court remain. The 7 bronze guardians lie still, their eyes dimmed. Apophis has been banished to the void beyond Duat's edges, his roar silenced. The basin's waters calm, reflecting the Solar Barque's glow like a placid lake. Ra steps off the prow, onto the serpent-carved platform. He kneels and touches the basalt, whispering a prayer of both victory and mercy. You who harbor chaos, may your return serve the balance of all things. With that benediction, he places the Eye of Ra upon the central carving of Apophis bound in chains of cosmic glyphs. The eye's light seeps into the stone, a promise that chaos, though subdued, sleeps ever vigilant. The priests lift the sill of water beside the platform. Ra re-embarks, and they chant the song of renewal, celebrating the sun's triumph over night's horrors. Lanterns flicker to life, casting gentle light upon the barque's path as it slips away from the serpent's court, leaving behind a realm cleansed by fire and song. Ahead, the water opens into a narrow channel ringed by pale dawn light. The trials of Duat Wane as Ra approaches his final passage. The promise of rebirth beckons. The Solar Barque carries its lord toward the horizon's edge, where dawn awaits to unfold its golden wings across the sleeping world. And thus, emerging from Serpent's jaws in courtly trial, Ra journeys onward bearing the scars of night, the blessings of Ma'at, and the unwavering resolve to rekindle life with each rising sun. The final stretch of Duat's waters narrows into a slender channel where the air grows perceptibly lighter. Here, the first glow of dawn lilac and pearl seeps through invisible cracks in the cave roof, heralding the end of Ra's nocturnal odyssey. The priests sense it in their bones, the helmsmen pause, oars poised as if in reverence. Even the ebony hull of the Solar Barque seems to shimmer with anticipation, its gilded hieroglyphs catching the nascent light and refracting it like living embers. Ahead lies the Chapel of the Rising Sunday, a vault carved from honey-colored limestone, its walls etched with bas reliefs depicting the cycle of night and day. In its center stands a circular altar of polished alabaster smooth, as water ringed by 7 shallow basins carved with the shapes of lotus petals. Each basin holds water drawn from a different phase of Duat's trials: the fiery lake, the judgment bridge, the cavern of whispers, the hall of balance, the court of serpents, and 2 pools of calm. In their center, a final basin remains empty, awaiting the first rays of Ra's restored light. As the barque glides into the chapel, Ra disembarks, his disk now a soft orb just above the horizon line. The priests fall silent, forming a semicircle around the alabaster altar. Their hands, once busy with oars and incense, now rest palms up in still expectancy. The air hangs thick with the scent of lotus and honeyed wine, mixed with the salt of underworld waters and the promise of new day. Ra approaches the altar, the hem of his crimson cloak brushing the limestone floor. He carries the Eye of Ra, now dull and dim after its ordeal in the Serpent's court. In his other hand, he holds the Ankh, polished to a mirror finish. With solemn grace, he kneels before the altar and places the eye into the empty basin, his own essence mirrored in its polished surface. Silence stretches, pregnant with possibility, until the first ray of light breaks through, striking the Eye of Ra dead center. The gemstone flares to life, igniting the water in the basin with ripples of molten gold. The glow leaps across the surface in a spiral that mirrors the forging of time itself, and one by one cascades into the adjacent basins. In each pool, the water shimmers, transforming from phase-bound liquid into pure light, violet from the cavern's memory, azure from Ma'at's justice, red gold from the lake of fire, emerald from the judgment bridge, umber from the Serpent's court, and silver from Duat's unseen depths. Together, they form a maelstrom of prismatic brilliance. The priests raise their incense burners, the smoke rising in 7 columns that twist and merge above the altar. They chant the hymn of ascendance, voices layering in intricate counterpoint. Behold the cycle of night complete. From shadow wrung, the light is replete. 7 trials past, 7 fires tamed, the sun reborn, the world reclaimed. At the hymn's peak, Ra stands and lifts the wasp scepter, its runes glowing with the energy of conquest and compassion. He reaches toward the chamber's vaulted ceiling, and the gathered light converges into a single beam that pierces the darkness overhead. A rumble, soft at first, grows into a resonant chord cavern itself, vibrating in harmony. The vaulted roof fractures along its natural seams, and a shaft of pure dawn descends, illuminating Ra's disk in full splendor for the first time since dusk's farewell. The chamber floods with radiance. Shadows flee the corners, the alchemy of Duat's trials is laid bare in water, stone, and light. The lotus petal basins overflow, their waters cascading over the altar's edge in liquid rainbows, pooling at Ra's feet like the dawn's first tears upon earth. The priests open their arms, faces lifted in awe as the light washes over them, purifying their robes and lifting their voices in a jubilant refrain. From the altar, Ra gathers the restored waters with a bowl fashioned from polished obsidian. He anoints his disc, his shoulders, and the prow of the bark, each drop igniting in golden flare. With each anointment, Ra intones a threefold blessing. Rise again, O Son of the World. Bear our hearts on wings of gold. Let life renew, let darkness yield. Dawn is ours, the day revealed. The final blessing echoes like thunder, and the solar barque where it waits tethered to a braided rope of purest light glides forward beneath the open fissure. The priests join hands and step aboard, forming a guard of honor along the deck. Ra climbs to his throne at the prow, disc blazing at full intensity, a blazing star born anew.